Warning, this podcast may be disturbing to some listeners. Due to the graphic nature, listener discretion is advised. Welcome from wherever you are. This is the Demon Inside podcast. I am your host, John Venom. If you would like to review another episode of the Demon Inside, you can go to Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and any podcast platform. You can also find us on YouTube and on our website, thedemoninside.podcast.transistor.fm. And please don't forget to subscribe and rate us with 5 stars. A new episode will come out once a week. Hello, my Demon Insiders, and welcome back to the Demon Inside. I'm your host, John Venom, and today we are going to be talking about the Demon Inside, Jeannette Michelle Hawes. Now, what happened with Jeannette was, at the time, she was 22 years old. This was on November 29th of 2009. She took her 2 kids into a convenience store bathroom in Augusta, Georgia, and stabbed her 3-year-old daughter and her 1-year-old son to death. So I was doing a lot of research on her, and I couldn't find too much, but I did find some things that were interesting. Now, she did grow up in Augusta, Georgia. I couldn't find any school records or any arrest records or any medical history, but what I did find was this. There was a police report about a Nicole Hawes, who was actually her sister. Now, Nicole was 14 years old at the time when she was killed by a drive-by shooting. Jeannette, at that time, was 10 years old, and what happened was her sister got killed by a stray bullet in a drive-by shooting. So this happened on November 18th of 1995, and according to the reports from the 1996 perpetrators, reports indicated that a LaWanda Ward and others were responsible for the drive-by shooting and death of Nicole. What happened was there was an altercation between 2 groups of women, and the shooter, LaWanda, was on one side, and a rival group of women on the other side. So after the shooter drove a car containing 5 of her friends past the gathering of the rival group, shots were fired from the passing car, killing 1 person and injuring 2 others. Now, that 1 person that she killed was Nicole. LaWanda fled the scene and attempted to hide the car. They ended up catching her, arresting her, and they gave her, I think it was 10 years in prison. But living with that tragedy must have been really hard on Jeannette. We've talked about before where there's been tragedies in families where somebody wants a relative back, and who knows at 10 years old if she knew about demonology or Ouija boards or any of that stuff, or she could have just been praying that her sister come back, and these demons might have heard that, and that would have been a way for them to get in. But let's continue. So I did find one place that she did work, and she was working as a temporary clerk at a post office processing and distribution center with the U.S. Postal Service. Now, they did ask why she was fired, but there was no comment, and all they could say was that she was no longer employed there. So now we come to Wednesday, November the 28th of 2009, and Jeannette called her mother in the morning. We're talking early in the morning, and she's asking her mom for a ride to Aiken, which is in South Carolina. It's 21 miles away from Augusta. Jeannette was actually calling from a bus stop with her 2 children where she eventually gets on the bus and refuses to get off the bus. She's very insistent that she needs to get to Aiken. Now, her mother, when she gets this phone call, is concerned because Jeannette doesn't sound like herself. So her mother calls her sister, Miss Jenkins, and she asked her to go pick her up. So when Miss Jenkins arrives, which is Jeannette's sister, she is in the bus and claiming that she needs to be in Aiken in South Carolina. So her sister, after a while, finally talked to Jeannette, and she talked her into getting into her car by agreeing to drive her. So she did exactly that. They put the kids in the car, Jeannette got in the car, and they started driving over the Savannah River. And for the next 2 hours, Jeannette kept telling her sister to drive here and drive there. And she was constantly changing her mind about where she wanted to go. According to her sister, Miss Jenkins, Jeannette asked her sister to drop her off at a Taylor Toyota on the Aiken-Augusta Highway, and then a number of other places. So Jenkins eventually had to stop for gas, and she stopped at a Shell gas station on Richland Avenue, and Jeannette got out of the car with her 2 kids and went to a nearby KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, for those of you that don't know what KFC is. And police said this: the mother refused to go back to Augusta with her sister. So the sister returned to Augusta without Jeannette and the children. But later on in the day, her sister, Miss Jenkins, tried calling Jeannette, and she couldn't reach her. So she got very concerned, and she called the Aiken Public Safety to report that her sister was missing with the 2 kids. She told the police that she did not feel her sister would harm herself or her children, but she did add that she felt there was something wrong with her, like she wasn't acting like herself. So the Aiken Police Department sent out a bolo with "Be on the lookout for," and they couldn't find her in Aiken. So it was the case was given to an Aiken investigator, and the detective went to the KFC and asked the manager if he had seen her and the kids. So the manager of the KFC said, yeah, we saw her, but she was acting kind of weird, maybe like she was on drugs or something. And she added this, she said, but she looked like she was taking good care of the kids. So the last time that the manager saw Jeannette was when she went out to smoke, and nobody saw Jeannette leave. So that was the last time they saw her at the KFC. Now, the investigator closed up the case later on that afternoon when he found out that Jeannette was at her house on Lumpkin Road in Augusta. So she had made it back to her home, back to her apartment with the 2 kids, and everything was fine. One of the neighbors said that Jeannette wasn't acting like herself. She said she was acting stressed and depressed that day. But, she was at home, so nobody thought anything about it. Now, on Thursday, November the 29th, Amanda Thomas, who is the assistant manager of the Patty gas station, sensed that something was wrong. And now Jeannette used to go into this convenience store a lot, and they knew her, and she was a regular customer. And she said that Jeannette walked in the afternoon with her 3-year-old daughter and her 1-year-old son, and she said this. Miss Thompson said, and I quote, "She looked very distraught. I asked her if she was okay," end quote. Jeannette didn't say anything. She just walked into the bathroom with the kids and locked the door. Miss Thomas didn't think anything of it until she started to hear the kids screaming and crying. Now, here's the thing that freaks me out, because I'm going to say what she said exactly. And it kind of freaked me out that she wouldn't know what this was. But Miss Thompson says this, and I quote, "I heard the kids cry, then heard a different sound, very undescribable." End quote. What was that very undescribable sound? It could be that she was stabbing the kids in that bathroom and she could hear the splashes of the knife, the blood, the skin. Or who knows? It could have been anything. Miss Thompson and 3 of the customers tried to unlock the bathroom door, and she said they couldn't do it, so they called 911. When the sheriff's deputies arrived, they forced the door open, and they found Jeannette covered in blood. Her son was also covered in blood, and he was dead on the floor. And her daughter was covered in blood, and she was dying. They immediately arrested Jeannette, and they called for an ambulance for her daughter. And sadly, she passed away at the hospital later on. The manager, Miss Thomas, said that as the police were leaving with Jeannette handcuffed, that it appeared that she was detached. I'm assuming, like every time we've heard from other episodes, that detached means she had that glazed look in her face, that glazed look in her eye where she's not there. Could possibly be the demon inside. But when the investigators started talking to her about her children, they didn't say what she said, but all they did say was that what she said about her children didn't make any sense. So I would love to hear what they said, because I think that would serve a great purpose to our show. Now, of course, the police are saying no one may ever know why the children were killed, but I do. I believe that it was a demon, and I believe that it was a infestation as well as a obsession. Now, the reason that I say obsession is because she was saying she had to get to Aiken, South Carolina, and she refused to get off of the bus. And so what was in Aiken that was so important that she was fixated on that? Well, that night she was on suicide watch. As we know, a lot of these demons, after they're done doing their deed, they like to kill their host. And of course, her attorney filed for a mental examination because of the circumstances of what happened. Now, here's something that I found that was really weird to me. But before I say that, what I want to say is this. Now, she did have a 1-year-old, and I've been told before about the postpartum period. And I understand that. Most women have postpartum depression when they have their children. It's just a natural thing. The emotional recovery is very difficult. So is the physical recovery. And I looked this up, and the postpartum period, or postnatal period, begins immediately after childbirth and typically lasts 6 to 8 weeks, though physical and emotional recovery can extend up to a year. It involves significant hormonal shifts, healing from delivery, and adjusting to motherhood. Now, Jeannette had adjusted to motherhood because she had a 3-year-old. Could this have been postpartum depression? Of course it could have. She could have been very depressed, sad, as you heard the neighbors say. She seemed depressed. This was a year after her baby was born. Now, she had no signs of mental problems that I could find. She was never sent to any hospitals for any mental problems or anything like that. I don't know why she got fired from the post office. We can only assume. But we're not here to assume. We're here to find the demon inside. So let me give you this. And this was very weird for me. And I'm coming back to what I was telling you. That 3 days before she killed her kids, she was approached by the police to go on another case. They took her to the station to interview her. Now, let me tell you what happened on this case. 3 days earlier, her brother, Elijah Hawes, tied his pit bull in the front yard of their house. There was a lady, Ginger, and I'm not going to say her last name, but Ginger, who was walking her dog, lost control of her dog, who ran to the pit bull and started attacking the pit bull. Well, the pit bull attacks or whatever. And I don't know if the pit bull did attack or not. I'm only assuming. But Ginger was having none of it. She ran to the pit bull with a pocket knife that she took out of her clothes and stabbed the pit bull to death. I'm talking, she must have stabbed it a lot of times for it to die. Now, Jeannette and her brother were witnesses to this. So the police took Jeannette for an interview, and they asked her what had happened, and she told them. Now, this is the interesting part for me. According to her, and I quote, listen to this, and I quote, this is Jeannette speaking. Again, this is really crazy for me. So one more time, and I quote, I just think, it was wrong for someone to actually go ahead and do that, because she could have just went and got some help or whatever. An animal is like a human being, and that is like when someone else. So I just think it's not right. She did not have to go that far. End quote. Jeannette, 3 days before she stabs her children, doesn't understand how somebody can stab a dog that many times to kill it without having any type of remorse, regret, fear, anything. But yet, she took her 2 kids into the gas station bathroom and stabbed her 2 kids to death. Do these 2 incidents have something in common? Yeah. This woman stabbed that dog to death. Could the demon have come out of her and gone into Jeannette, who stabbed the 2? Yeah, definitely. Could this have been the start of what I am calling the mothers that stab their kids, their 2 kids who are under the age of 10? This, to me, is a pattern. You have a mother who takes their kids somewhere other than their home and kills 2 of the kids, stabs them to death. Now, when I found this was the beginning of a pattern that I found, and it was weird to me because it started in 2007 with Jeannette, and it went from 2007 to 2008. And 2008, there was a male that stabbed his son. Then in 2009, there was a female that stabbed her kids. It was a mom, and it continued every year. But the more that I got into it, the more I realized there was differences, because Jeannette stabbed 2 kids. The father, the following year in 2008, only stabbed 1 kid. After that, in 2009, it's Susan Johnson who stabbed her kid with scissors. So the scissors are another pattern. The fathers are another pattern. And this is another pattern that she's killing 2 kids. we're going to go through all these three, and I'm trying to find more of these cases because, like I said, when I found this pattern, it ran from 2007 to 2020, and that's when COVID happened and everything stopped. And we've talked about that before. Could this be three separate demons killing on behalf of each other or on themselves? We've talked about in one of these, which is the fathers that kill their kids, we talked about Blair Ness, who stabbed his son in a courtyard with scissors and knives, and he was screaming at the top of his lungs, and he is part of that pattern. And at that time, I told you the name of the demon, which I'm not going to say again because I was told not to. But there was also Nadia Claudia Rodriguez, who stabbed her son. She didn't kill him, but she did stab him a lot. She was naked, and the police had to shoot her because she was reaching for their gun. She is also part of this pattern that I found. So if you haven't heard those two, I would go back and listen to those, which is Claudia Nadia Rodriguez and also Blair Ness. And listen to those because the next ones that I'm going to be doing are going to be very similar to those two, plus this one of Jeannette Hawes. Could these be demons that are killing their kids, making these people kill their kids? Yes, it could be. Jeannette Hawes went to court. They filed for mental instability. And recently, she's in a home. She's no longer in prison. And she might be released soon. They don't think that she would hurt anybody else anymore. They don't think she would hurt herself. She's almost cured, so to speak. Now, is this a fraud? Could she be a very good actress and killing her kids and you know, pretending that she just, you know, whatever the case may be? Maybe we need to start looking or thinking more about the children. We need to take care of our future, and these kids are our future. Who knows what they could have grown up to be? Who knows what they could have done in this world? And these demons are taking them out before they even get a chance to do it. My belief is maybe one of these kids was going to get rid of demons forever, and they decided to get rid of them first. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a nice one. Be safe, and I'll talk to y'all next week. Don't forget to subscribe to the Demon Inside podcast on any podcast platform. A new episode of the Demon Inside will be released every week. Let us know what you think of the episode on any of our social media platforms. If you have any questions or comments, go to the Demon Inside Podcast at gmail.com or click at the link below. We would love to hear from you. And to become a Demon Insider, go to the Demon Inside Podcast.transistor.fm. We thank you for listening and hope you will join us next week for a new Demon Inside podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell your friends. I am John Venom, and I'll see you next time, if I don't get possessed. The Demon Inside was created and written by James Porter. It is a production of Venomous Entertainment. Background music is by Lucas King. And the title song, The Demon Inside, was produced by Rice Fulber. Music and lyrics by Peter Shelley. And performed by Conjure One. All the content on this podcast is strictly the opinion of the content creator and not the organization, its affiliates, or employees.